Good evening, everyone. How the hell are you tonight? I'm sitting here having a chicken fit, so
My volume is turned
I
way up. Hang on. Woo! Scared me. About knocked me out.
sorry.
Oh no, it's not your fault. It was new earpods again. Hey, Brentwood
Again.
Chic. Hey, Carrie Berry's mom. Sorry, I am not wearing a stitch of makeup tonight at all. I have not felt good the past 24 hours. Some stomach issues, but I showered, so I figured that's good enough.
Well, we are damn glad to have you. And you
Hmm.
look good even though you've been puking your ass off.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. But I'm here.
Is is that a compliment?
That is a compliment, yes. Sorry, I mean to sniff right into the microphone.
I was thinking this day and age there was a one of the news people that covers the Washington it used to be the Washington Redskins. They've got a new name, the Commodores or Challengers or
I can't
Condoms,
remember.
whatever. But he got kicked off because he saw another news reporter, and she's tall, not altogether unattractive, blonde, and she normally in her pics is wearing pink. I'm not sure if she was at this time, but
Hmm.
he yelled out to her and said, "Hey, Barbie," or "There goes Barbie," and so they canned him. And so
Okay.
I know in this stage, you should be respectful and in a professional setting and all, but um I just wondered if most women would be offended at that, if they would think that was rude behavior.
I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, it's kind of a little like backhanded compliment, but a compliment nonetheless, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking, so I asked somebody else and they said, "Well, would you do that to a guy?" And I go, "No, I wouldn't call him Barbie. I'd say, hey, hey, asshole,
True.
you know, that kind of thing." That's a lot of times how we greet, it's kind of kidding, joking, lighthearted, whatever. But it's
And
a
there
different day
could
and age.
be like a background story to that no one knows as well.
That could be, and some other stuff. True. I
Hmm.
just saw the headlines on that, and I just thought it's just a different era, just a different time. And I know some of the previous times were abusive, were too rude. The cat calling, the
Clay,
constant.
yeah, I gotta hang on. The purple spherical object is on my shelf, and Chunk has just discovered it. And if I don't give it to him, he's going to have a fit. He's whining, crying. Hang on.
Yeah, if y'all don't know, Chunk is literally obsessed with round spherical objects.
Only certain round spherical objects.
Yeah, but obsession is real.
Yes.
It is real.
It has to be a certain brand. Doesn't matter the color, but the brand has got to be the same. And if he sees one, I mean, he carries one around with him when we take him outside to go potty. He cannot let it go.
Hey, Carrie Berry's mom, we are at the Open Space Dog Park.
Cool.
You're watching us at the park. We appreciate that very much. Get some of your friends and family to chip in.
Subscribe
And
and
it's
watch. That's what he means.
yeah. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking since we've got Carrie Berry's mom on, watching,
Hmm.
and we will just go
Mm.
ahead and share Maggie May, who I presume they're at the doggy park with.
Oh,
We
beautiful
Maggie May
baby.
was one of those that didn't get a chance to show off last
Hmm.
week, so she sent us in some pics,
That is an
And there
Irish
is,
setter, correct? Yes,
yes, looks like it to me.
I had an Irish setter when I was 5 years old. It was a birthday present to me. And her name was Scarlet. And when I was 10 years old, I got scarlet fever and I blamed her. I was like, Scarlet, it's your fault.
When I was in college, had an Irish setter, had the prettiest eyes, and called her Lady. And Lady was actually one of the smartest dogs. I don't normally think of Irish setters as terribly, up near the top of the intelligence scale. But this dog, all
Oh,
I had to do was show her a command once, maybe twice, and she had it down pat. She was the easiest dog to work with. She was on
they're
cue.
very smart. They are very smart dogs.
Yeah, some of the ones I have been around have been less than that. So I will say it
I can't.
is more of an individual thing. But the two Morkies, I really debate on whether they are not all that bright or whether they're just bright and just cocky as hell and figure they don't have to follow along. Because sometimes you get the sense they know exactly what you're saying and doing, and they're like, nuts to you. You don't know
Pretty
who runs this
much.
house.
Because they definitely run it. There is no doubt.
And got to say hello to Brentwood Chic. Thank you for coming in, Sky Ricky. Every time I see Sky Ricky now, I think of the two dogs,
The two dogs,
Sky
yeah.
and Ricky. And then, of
thank
course,
you guys. I saw all of the Feel Better, Ellen. I appreciate it. It's been a rough 24 hours. I don't know what's going on.
I can testify to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then our favorite Canadian, Catherine Fraser. Any relation to the Frasers of Outlander? Scotland Frasers?
I thought she was Scottish. Did I miss something? I don't know. Yeah, little dogs okay. Let me tell you. I don't know if y'all have ever. I know y'all saw. Sorry, my head still isn't quite right. Thor, our big dog that Clay rescued, and we see every now and then. He gets to visit, but yeah, he will kick you out of the bed in 2 seconds. And the last thing you want to see is a head as big as yours right up next to you, smelling you when you're waking up. It scares the crap out of you the first time. Just saying.
Yeah, he's never kicked me out of bed.
He's kicked me out of bed. Literally kicked me out of bed.
He wasn't kicking you out. He was just trying to get a little space.
Yeah, he was stretching. That's what it was.
That's kind of not all that much different from what you do.
Who, me? Wait, oh, don't. We're going to go there? That's not fair. I have night tremors. And I did one time. Clay, you tell the story because I was clearly asleep.
Ellen, sometimes when she would sleep, she would literally start kicking modestly violently. And one night, I could sense she was starting up, and as I was rolling over, she kicked, and all I saw was Talou, the little white dog, just lift and soar through the air. Didn't yelp, nothing. You heard this little thud. And you could hear it kind of shake. And then she jumped back up, got on the bed, got on my side of, my side of the bed kind of thing.
You can't blame her. I mean,
no, but
I know. Brentwood sheep, poor puppers. I didn't know Clay was just Clay did the same thing to his daughter. So
No, I
except
didn't. I
on
was fully
purpose.
awake.
I was asleep. How
Yeah, I
about poor
was.
Casey?
My daughter was probably about 5 at the time, and it was bedtime, and she was in, getting in bed, and I was next to her reading a story or something. I don't even remember what happened, but something. I wish I could remember to give it a little bit better context, but I don't. But just all of a sudden, I just kind of gave her a little shove. And she just literally levitated over the floor. And her whole expression, I can just see her whole expression right there looking at me right as she, plummeted down below the bed.
It
And
still
then I
cracks
see
him
two
up.
hands on the side of the bed, and her head pulls up, and she's just looking at me like, I trusted you. Anyway, great memory, great times with my baby.
Now, granted, you are 6'3", and she is merely like 5 foot nothing at this
Yeah.
right now. Yeah,
And at
so
5,
she was a tiny little thing.
At 5, she was a little more diminutive. She was tiny. So, Catherine, does Maggie May kick you out of bed in the morning? And then you've got Carrie Berry's mom defending Irish setters. Irish setters are very smart. The one I had before was just a brick. Not going to lie. So my sample is admittedly very small, but I love them.
In my family, we've had 4 Irish setters. They've all been very intelligent. So
all smart. Mm-hmm. Brentwood jumping in and defending cats or liking cats. And then there, crazy cat queen with 26 cats. I don't know if she's been able to join us yet. She'll probably be here shortly, but
3. I'm not
sure. Some number. Some
over 20
number.
Cats. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the truth comes out. Miss Maggie May Sunshine runs our house. She I love that statuesque picture of her. She looks like she is a dog in charge. Catherine, I have standard dachshunds. They are criminally intelligent. Dachshunds are one of my most admired breeds. I'm not going to lie.
Why's that?
You know what they were bred for?
I do not.
They were bred to hunt badgers, which badgers kind of a mean little critter. And so a dachshund, that's why they're long and narrow, and they're double jointed. They actually go down the hole in the dark till they bump into something. Then they bite it and they
back out,
dislocate their legs and crawl out, dragging this thing with them. Now, as you can imagine, that badger is probably not very happy to have it being drug out of its lair.
Yeah, badgers are aggressive.
Yeah, but the dachshund just doesn't give a damn. He's just still dragging and crawling out backwards till it brings it out. Tough little crackers. Mm-hmm. And but that's why they're long and thin and they're just tough little boogers. I admire the hell out of them. I know they're not used for that much anymore, but got to admire the bloodline.
That's okay. Our terrier thinks he's a retriever, so.
Yeah, I ought to show him a badger hole, see what he does.
He'll throw his ball down there. Yes,
badger would be in trouble.
Smart. If he got
Brentwood
Chunk's ball, yeah.
Grew up with German Shepherds. They are very smart. Shepherds and Belgians, very, very smart.
Tallulah. Poor pupper.
I think this is in reference to Tulu going airborne. Poor pupper. So
Yeah, but she recovered, didn't you?
she
to
is
live my
very
mama.
forgiving.
She
She is
knows her
very
mama.
sweet, very forgiving. And she bounces really good. Gary Berry's mom. This is our 6th setter. Goodness.
Setters are great. I think
Do you
they
hunt
must
with
have
them or
gotten
just use them as retrievers? Or you just use them as pet, or just keep them as pets? They are beautiful.
Mhm.
Do love the setters. We've got a couple of other dogs. This one is Twiggy, which belongs to our very own Zanzitard. Don't know if she's been able to join us yet. She sometimes has to jump in a little late, but this is Twiggy
Twiggers.
on her pink
It's a heating pad.
It is a heating pad, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And if you know Zanzitard, pink appears to be her color. Little pink flowers.
Like pink. Mm-hmm. She's had a rough time. She lost her gecko recently. Oh, that's Sandra's puppy.
This is Miss Sandra's puppy. Don't have a name for it.
I don't remember their names.
She sent it in.
This is isn't this the picture that she sent me on Saturday?
You sent it to me. I'm not sure exactly when you got it.
Sorry.
But she has two. This little, I'm going to go ahead and call that a Yorkie.
They are Yorkies. They're teacup Yorkies. That's after her haircut. Same dog.
Okay, my bad. I was thinking this was a different dog.
No, same dog. This was the haircut debacle she was sharing with us. She was not very happy about, and I can understand why. Poor girl.
Looks like she joined the Corps and got a high and tight.
I mean, the before versus after picture is, yeah.
Let's go back to the before.
See how
you got the before.
Then she went and took her to the groomer. You're on the wrong picture. Whoops. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
I have to do this.
There. Yeah.
After. I hope she didn't pay cash for that.
I'm sure she did. Sandra's too sweet not to. Yeah, I mean that's a chop job right there. Poor puppy. She was laughing about it though last week.
I'm sure she's much cooler. The pup actually probably enjoys it. Mm-hmm. Don't have to worry about hair matting. And she's still damn cute. It's just
she is cute. She's a little uneven.
Yeah, it's just completely different than what you were expecting when you see a Morkie. And that tongue.
It looks more like a Chihuahua at this point. Poor baby.
That is funny.
Mm-hmm. So that's what she was sending me pictures of on Saturday when I was laughing. I was just like, oh my God, Sandra. She was like, it's okay. Go ahead. Tell them it's me.
Well, do appreciate y'all sending those in. It just makes us smile. And it's just fun seeing your babies. So what else is going on out there? Tuesday night, hope everybody is getting home, getting settled in from work. Obviously, it's summer for me. So I'm I'm going to say I'm working from home because I actually am doing some stuff. I'm revising a course and doing some research and trying to write a little book.
Are you? I didn't know that
Oh.
part. What about the which class is it? I know you said you haven't taught it in like 13 years. Which class is that?
It's a corporate finance class.
Mm.
So I taught it when I first arrived at the university, and then started focusing more on other courses. Well, we're a little short of faculty, and the numbers are growing. It takes, in academia, it takes several years to make a new hire. It's a kind of an awkward process. So due to demand for this course, they needed somebody else to teach it. So I'm going to do that. Sky Ricky, what is the book about? The book's about investing, how to invest, how to, and I haven't quite finalized the exact draft, whether I'm going to do it for teens, aim it toward teens, or beginning investors. But just I'm going to say a short book. I'm thinking, 10, 12, 15,000 words on describing alternative investments, talking about risk, a little bit about the miracle of compounding, so to speak, and then different investment alternatives. It's kind of like how to invest, how not to buy stocks. I think buying stocks for a new investor and individual investors is a pretty piss poor strategy generally. In my years of experience seeing individuals or through their stockbrokers or financial planners or whatever, trying to buy individual stocks has generally turned out to be extremely low yielding performance. So I don't recommend that for most individuals for the bulk of their investments. Now, if they want to take some play money and, do some things with that, that's great. But in terms of the bulk of the investments, unless somebody is a professional, has a good record picking out investments, is involved in the market full time, has a good gut for the mood of the market, which I think is more important than just crunching, trying to project cash flows or looking at technical factors. Most of the good investors that I know have a good gut for the market. And buying a good stock normally is not that difficult. The difficulty comes in knowing when to sell it, because a good stock is not always a good stock. And that's where individual investors screw up a lot. They'll hold something too long, or they will make a poor investment and then they get emotionally attached to it and can't sell it and reinvest in something else till it gets back to the original price. So that kills a lot of investors and their returns. So the book is going to cover, some of these basic ideas and concepts and just be a primer on how to invest, how to start investing. Sky Ricky should be for a high school curriculum.
I agree.
Kind of what I thought about it at first, and I'll probably aim it toward that. Not necessarily for a textbook, but just, for high schoolers who think, maybe I do want to get involved in this. Where do I start? Maybe have a job, put a little money aside, parents who want to teach their kids how to invest or about the investment world, that kind of thing. So I probably will aim it for teens. So investing for teens, how not to buy stocks.
So I've got this new skincare that I bought, and I think Tallulah really likes it.
Honestly, the way Tallulah licks, she could not like it, and it just wouldn't make any difference. She will just lick
She is
and
like
lick.
all after it. I'm like, okay, calm down. I know, calm down. She wants that face though. I don't know why.
She does. She loves Ellen, but she loves to lick. Catherine, she wants her coat back. I
Talking
think you're
about
referring
Sandra's
to,
pup.
yeah.
True.
One more time.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
it's all right.
I feel that RSI provides a good indicator when to buy sell a certain stock. I'd love if you could explain MACD in depth. I've never been able to interpret it correctly.
What is MACD?
It's a momentum indicator.
Uh-huh.
Trying to remember, it stands for moving average convergence divergence. So MACD. It's basically a momentum indicator. Now, if most of you probably aren't familiar with the Fama French asset pricing model.
Over my head.
Well, trying to think how I want to explain this. They came up with a premier model in the, when was it? 78. I don't remember the exact year, so don't hold me to that. But anyway, they came up with an asset pricing model that has been used by the finance community for decades. Well, at the same time, Carhart basically came up with the same model, but instead of 3 factors, he had a 4th factor. He had a momentum factor. And momentum just simply is the fact that when a stock starts rising rapidly, it probably will continue that. The momentum carries it through. You know, people see the stock price rising, they start jumping on it. So it kind of pushes it onward and upward. So momentum has been a serious contributor to returns for quite some time. Now, once that model was introduced, published, and people became aware of it, everybody started jumping on momentum. Well, and that's when the MACD indicator, really kind of took off. But in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, momentum ceased being a significant indicator of stock performance.
Why do you think that is?
Well, once a paper is published and once the market knows something, then they react to it, and it no longer has the same information content. Abnormalities, once they get exposed, they tend to go away or minimized. And once people understand that with momentum, the idea is you see a stock price rise, you're chasing it. So it made people less apt to chase a stock price because they know that it's probably, they're probably buying it at a high price.
Because momentum is going to make, do you mind? The momentum is going to make it higher, right? And so you don't want to buy it at the peak because then you're going to lose money.
Right. Kind of like AMC. Okay. Mm-hmm. The stock was at $10 and then all of a sudden it was on Reddit. I forget the channel. And the stock price took off. And in a few days, it was up to $300, $400. And then in another few days, it came back down to, 15. So there's a ton of people that bought it at 300, 350, 400 that have significant losses in it. like I say, buying a stock is not difficult. Knowing when to sell it is, because you get a good gain in it and you think it's not done running. I don't want to miss out on all this momentum, this energy that's being poured into it, because you don't have a good sense when that's going to stop.
Well, let me ask you this then. We were talking the other day about AI in the market and, the black box and all of that stuff, right?
Right.
And how even just through nanoseconds or even a second or two, the AI that's already kind of in the market already, right, kind of throws out a bid, correct? And most of the market has no idea because it's just seeing how the market's going to react.
Right.
So does that play a part in this MACD? Like, can the computer system it already has manipulate the stock enough, do you think, to make
You're
it seem
basically
like or
asking
not
me.
seem like?
You're basically asking me about the algorithms that run trading platforms.
Yes. And can they manipulate the market at all to any major extent?
Not only can, but they do.
They do. Okay.
Yeah, 90, I don't know the exact number, but I would easily say anywhere from 85 to 95% of the volume on the markets is algorithmic trading now. Now, a lot of that is just flash trades. It just pops up for literally a fraction of a second. So you as an individual trader never really see that offer. But it's just, the computer throws up a price for only a millisecond or two, a thousandth of a second, so that other computers will see it and then react to it. Well, that's information for the original computer. It knows how other computers will react, so it can factor that into its purchasing and offering decisions and try to make money off other computers.
To me, that's just a very scary proposition. I'm sorry. It just, that AI is controlling a lot of what's going on in the market. That is crazy to me.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at this guy. This is a former student of mine.
Oh, David Yoakum.
David Yoakum. A guy who actually...
Sorry.
Okay, I'm about to give out a little bit of his past, but I won't do that.
Don't
already
do that.
Did because saying he's a student. But David, if you didn't want that known publicly, humble apologies. It's too late now. You can sue me though. But this guy has worked a lot with technical investing. He actually follows it very closely. And so, MACD is just right down his alley. Aww. It's all good. Thank you, man.
Hey.
What I might do.
There you go.
Your check's in the mail, man.
Oh, stop it.
What probably would be better is to actually maybe have a night and talk about some of these, technical indicators, technical trading. And I'd even enjoy having a guest on, David, if you're available.
Yeah, David, please. I will take the back seat. Give me the night off, and you can Blake and go on about all the things that I don't understand.
But if there's some interest in the technical side of investing and trading, be glad to do that.
I think we got a winner.
Yeah.
Very cool. Just let us know when you're.
Yeah, shoot me an email with your schedule. Now we're generally on Tuesdays, Saturday nights. So if you're available on a Saturday night for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever you've got, just love to do it. Just let me know what your schedule is and what techniques you specifically are most interested in, have the most experience with, and would like to talk about the most. And we'll make a night of it.
It's a date.
So, yeah, David is an outstanding young man. That should go without saying. I obviously wouldn't have anybody on the show that I don't think is a good person. And that'll be fun. It'll be a fun night. So Oliver, maybe that will help give you a little bit more detail.
Perfect, David. Thank you.
Yeah. Don't know if that gave you enough of what you were looking for MACD.
For Oliver?
Oliver, yeah. I don't trade, have never traded off of technical indicators. I do follow some of them loosely. And some of the managers, hedge fund or fund managers that I've known, they don't necessarily trade precisely off of technical indicators, but they follow them. There is information available in there. Now, some people trade off of them. Literally will look at them for, a firm buy and sell signal. So
because I've known you a while, I think that's fair to say. I do know that you don't just look at the markets and what's happening and what's going up and down, but you look at bigger world events. And for the secondary, tertiary events, not as much the actual event, because it's probably too late. The primary is too late by the time the world hears about it. But you go down the line and say, okay, so how is this going to affect this product or this crop or this company or this whatever? And that's, from what I know about you, that's pretty much how you pick your stocks.
I look for trends. I look for trends, and then I decide what companies or stocks are in the best position to exploit or take advantage of those trends. So it may be stocks, it may be futures, it may be whatever. Options sometimes. So I don't, and then when that trend becomes popular, realized, or whatever, that's probably about the time that I would look to sell. Large part of my retirement assets, I'll even use mutual funds for. Now, in the state system, I don't have much of a choice. So, but the thing is, to trade stocks individually, you really need to be in the market and watching it all the time. Particularly if you're going to use technical indicators. And I don't do that. I'm not involved in the market all day long, watching it on the screen. I know some people that will make some trades and call it a day. So they may be on for a couple hours, make a few trades. And they're good. So, but that's not my life. Oliver, that's all right. I'll tune into the technical analysis night. I found some small success in options trading from some technical indicators. Super powerful to help make a more educated decision. And there are some people that can and do. David was, I think, associated with a firm, may even have adopted some of it himself. I'll let him, speak for himself and what he doesn't do. But there are some people that do use these indicators for short-term trading. So we'll try to get you some answers. It's a fair question. Good question. And we'll try to get you some answers. Or
luckily,
some information.
You've educated all the people that know all this stuff as well. I mean, you got your students showing up going, I'm in. Ooh, MACD.
Finance is an enormous universe. It's one thing I love about it. And there is nobody who knows everything about everything. I'm
No.
in, my particular interest have been more in derivatives, particularly fixed income derivatives. And that's where, a fair amount of my experience, background, research, whatever lies.
Explain what fixed income derivatives are for the
fixed income is
those of
generally
us who may
bonds,
not know.
credit, debt, mortgages. So you can take those instruments, those securities, and structure the cash flows. You take, for example, a pool of 1,000 mortgages. You put it in one trust and then sell shares of that trust. It's called a mortgage-backed security. Well, you can take that mortgage back and combine it with some other mortgage backs. And you've got a cash flow, a fixed cash flow every month of the combined interest and principal that the people are paying through those mortgages. Well, you can take a computer and cut up and divide those cash flows and create different securities out of those.
Isn't that kind of how we got in trouble in 2007, 2008?
Well, see, no.
Okay.
I argue, and I believe the facts are pretty clear, was that 2008 was caused by subprime mortgages.
But those were in those mortgage-backed securities, correct?
Yes. But in 1995, the regulations changed to where banks were encouraged to make loans to people who couldn't afford them, otherwise known as subprime mortgages.
Right.
Well, banks historically have never wanted to make a loan to anybody that couldn't pay it back. So starting in 96, 97, once the law that was changed came into effect, the revision to the Community Reinvestment Act, banks had to start making some of those. Well, in 1999, both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two government GSEs, these are large, let me call them trading firms, established by Congress who are pseudo-private, whose goal is to promote liquidity in the mortgage markets. And the way they promote liquidity is to buy the mortgages from the banks that issue them. So if the bank makes a $500,000 mortgage, they don't want to keep that mortgage. They make 1% off of selling you that mortgage, but they don't want to keep it for 30 years. They would rather sell that mortgage to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, get that $500,000 back and be able to lend it out again and make another 1%, $5,000. So they keep doing this. They make a mortgage, sell it to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, make another mortgage. Well, in 99, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac said, hey, we'll start taking subprimes. They lowered their standards, said, hey, we'll start taking subprimes. So banks, the spigot was turned on. Banks could make all the crappy loans they wanted, loans to people who couldn't pay it back, and then sell it to the government, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, who guaranteed it, made it a triple, it put it in a mortgage-backed security with 1,000 other mortgages and rated it AAA. Well, 9/11 hit, the Fed lowered interest rates, so mortgage rates, particularly on adjustable rates, were extremely low. Well, after a couple of years, 03, 04, the Fed started, 04, 05, the Fed started raising rates again. And as they did, the rates on these mortgages started rising. And all of a sudden, people found out that they couldn't afford their mortgage, so they had to put their house on the market.
Isn't that happening now?
Hold on.
Okay.
Let me hold that question for just a second.
Okay.
So they started putting their house on the market. Well, more and more people started putting their house on the market. The supply exceeded the demand, so prices started dropping. Well, that encouraged more people to put their houses on the market. prices started dropping faster. The value of these securities started dropping faster. Some of the banks, like Bear Stearns was the first, failed. And so that kind of began the chaos that we saw in 07, particularly in 08. Well, that had nothing to do with derivatives. That was all subprime mortgages. Now, the problem with derivatives is that some derivatives were structured to like be an insurance contract on these mortgage-backed securities or on the firms like Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns would issue debt. So investors might want insurance on Bear Stearns defaulting. So they would take out some of these derivative contracts, kind of like an insurance policy. Well, when Bear Stearns failed, some of these contracts had to be paid, and they worked. The derivatives worked initially, did what they were supposed to do, paid off like they were supposed to do. But they were never designed for a systematic collapse. So once the whole system started failing, the derivatives started failing as well. And I would argue it added fuel to the fire, but they did not cause it.
Okay.
So to answer your original question, no, I don't think derivatives caused it. I don't think they influenced it.
No, I was saying mortgage-backed securities, not derivatives themselves.
Well, the derivatives insured the mortgage-backed securities.
Okay.
They're tied together.
Okay.
So the more mortgage-backed securities failed, the more the derivatives had to pay off. And there came a point where they had pretty much drained the issuers of their capital.
All right. So back to my second question, which was, hey, Quaddy. Hey, Melissa. Glad you're back.
How y'all doing?
Second question was, right now, people are getting mortgages assuming that the interest rate is going to go down.
Yes. A few.
Isn't that a problem?
No, it depends on how well they can afford a 7% mortgage. If they can afford it for a year, 2 years, they'll probably at the end of 2 or 3 years be able to refinance and get a lower rate. The main problem, I think, is housing prices haven't really started to drop. Let me see here. What did I do with that? Give me a second. Well, where is it? I just saw it earlier.
Don't know.
Yeah,
for those of y'all just showing up, I apologize. I have been sick. So you got Ellen in the raw tonight.
Here is a home price index from Case-Shiller. And if you'll notice right in the middle, you'll see that's the subprime crisis where housing prices shot up. You see them going exponential almost, and then kind of top out in 05, 06, and then start dropping pretty significantly, actually. Well, over the past few years, they've been rising. Then all of a sudden, you've got the COVID and the COVID stimulus. And look what happens to those prices. They literally go vertical. Going vertical. Huge increase. And then, you know, the inflation hits, mortgage prices start hiking, and housing prices drop a notch. And then if you can see the tail end of this, go back up. So the question here is, did you catch the drop? Well, why, if mortgage issuance is down, mortgage rates have soared from 2.5%, 3% to 7.5%. So you've got a whole lot less people buying houses. So why haven't housing prices dropped? Well, the reason they haven't is because people aren't selling their houses. They've got a 2.5% or 3% mortgage, and they don't want to lose that. They know if they sell their current house, even if the price is decent,
you can't rent for the same amount.
You can't rent for the same amount, and to buy another house, they'll have a 7% mortgage. Mm-hmm. So the supply of houses is dropped. You don't see existing home sales like you did a year ago, year and a half, 2 years ago. That volume, the availability of existing homes has dropped greatly. And new home starts are starting to drop. Contractors aren't building as many new homes. They finished the ones they had in progress or started already, but they're not starting new homes. So it's a supply and demand equation. Supply has dropped. Demand has dropped, but not as much as supply. So the prices haven't moved a whole lot. Now, will that continue? It looks like the Fed is not done raising rates. I don't think we're done with inflation. Oil, for example, has jumped up 21% the past month alone. Food prices, you've got Russia saying, hey, Ukraine, you're not going to be able to ship wheat anymore. You've got Ireland saying, hey, we're going to kill 200,000 cattle for climate change. You've got a drought in the Midwest of the U.S. You've got rains and floods in California, which includes the San Joaquin Valley, which produces 30% of this country's fruit and vegetables. So it's not hard to anticipate that U.S. supply will be down, world supply will be down. Not only that, there's more people to feed. So I expect food prices to keep increasing for some time. How much? I can't exactly say. But food prices aren't going down anytime soon. Energy prices are going up, which is going to impact everything as far as inflation. So we are not out of the woods yet. Catherine, building materials are still priced high and distribution is a problem still. Yeah, I know lumber has come down a good bit, but I don't know about durable goods, for example. Roofing materials, labor, I think is still going up, though I'm not sure in the construction trades how much. So the whole industry is just in a befuddled state right now. Housing starts are too low for prices to drop. That's just what I was saying about how contractors, builders are starting fewer houses. They're not building as many because they're concerned with the higher interest rates. They may not be able to sell them. Flip side is if people with existing homes still don't sell, then new homes will be the only thing that will sell. But there's another side to that too. If you notice this latest JOLTS report, you've got quits decreasing. You've got number of people laid off increasing. Quits did not increase. Quits are when people quit their job. It's kind of a sign that if somebody quits their job, they think they can have a relatively easy time getting another, maybe better job. But when people stop quitting work, it's a sign that they're scared they won't be able to find other employment. So it's kind of a pre-recession indicator. So if, some of these things come about and people lose their jobs, it doesn't matter if they've got a 2.5% or a 5% or a 7% mortgage. They're probably going to have to, a lot of them probably going to have to end up selling their house. And that's when you'll see supply of houses start to increase.
If they can sell their house, if anybody, can afford it at the interest rate, they're going to sell it.
Just like in 2006 and 2007, as the supply of housing started coming up, remember that picture I showed you?
Mm-hmm.
Here's 05 and here's 06. You see it start to come down before the recession. 06, 07, 08, 09, 010.
Mm-hmm.
It continued on through 13. So the drop in housing prices isn't a big pre-recession indicator. It normally happens during and after a recession. So, a significant recession once people start getting laid off. Catherine, metals are still high and inventories are low. Metals, for durable goods. Durable goods are like the oven, the refrigerator, the washer. You've got a lot of metal that goes into a house, the piping, if it's not PVC, but the copper wiring, the nails, etc. Do what?
The roof.
The roof, maybe it's a tin roof. So, there's a lot of, I want to say, conflicting inputs. Some of them are going up, some of them are going down. The markets, there's just a lot of uncertainty. There's not a clear direction. But to me, things look like they are kind of grinding slower. Corporate debt borrowings crashing. A lot of corporations are having to refinance their debt or will over the next year. Now, some corporations were smart enough over the past few years when debt was so low at 2.5%, they borrowed longer. Instead of borrowing for 90 days or 6 months, they borrowed for a couple of years or 3 years. Well, it's been a year. So some of those maturities are going to start coming due. And those corporations are going to have to take that 2.5%, 3% debt and refinance it at 6%, 7%, 8%, which they won't have the cash flow to cover, or it will put a huge crimp in their cash flow. So a lot of these zombie companies, as I refer to them, zombie companies are simply companies where their interest expense is greater than their operating income. Or equal to or close or near their operating income. So if that interest expense goes up, they're not going to be able to increase income enough to cover that bill. They're in trouble. Oliver, construction labor is only getting more expensive. For every 7 laborers that retire, only 1 is replaced. Bingo. That's a big problem coming up over the next 5-10 years, particularly.
Oh, you not think the retirement again.
Do what?
Don't remind us that we're not going to get our Social Security again.
Now, I'm just saying that even with the immigrants coming in, who many of them gravitate to the trades, you're still getting more people retiring than are entering into the field. Like Oliver said, for every 7 that retire, only 1 is replaced. And, we're just seeing the initial effects of this. If this continues, then bingo, the labor cost will, quote, go through the roof in the next 10 years, as Oliver says. Yeah, it's, that's a good point. Mining costs are going up. You don't see people going into mining. Who wants to be a coal miner now? Who wants to, mine
or a cobalt miner when copper, you can die lithium. Doing it?
We have the resources in here to mine a lot of the rare earth materials. But due to environmental regulations, we don't. Well, so we get them from China.
Well, China gets them from South America, do they not?
Well, a lot of copper mines are in South America, Peru, Chile. But the rare earth materials, I don't know if they're as prevalent in South America or not. Offhand, I'm not sure. But there's a lot of problems that are coming up that we are just starting to see now. And so, I've pointed out a few times, I don't think inflation is done. I don't think inflation is under control. And there are going to be long-term structural issues with food, particularly if the politicians keep trying to kill agricultural supply. California restrains water. You're seeing a lot of people complain about cows and cow gas, climate change. Yeah. You see people arguing that we ought to eat more insects. And then it's funny. I saw a little blurb. I wish I'd saved it, but there were like 10 articles from NPR talking about how, eating bugs may be the future, or, advocates are saying eating bugs is healthy and this kind of thing. And then a recent argument talking about conspiracy theorists arguing that, there's a movement to try to get people to eat bugs. It's like, make up your mind. You're going to encourage people to eat bugs, or is that a conspiracy theory?
I'm not eating bugs.
I have eaten bugs before, and it's not a great delicacy. Yeah, it's not something that I would encourage. I much prefer other food sources.
I'm not eating bugs.
But the key is the supply of food is being cut. In 2012, we had enough food to feed the whole world. We didn't have the logistics to get it delivered. We had enough food to feed the whole world. And that supply has been cut even more so the last few years. Something's got to give. Something will give. Catherine, mining metallurgical coal is impractical in North America. It totally destroys the groundwater, but is buying it from elsewhere viable when we buy food overseas too? I think there are better techniques in terms of mining, but again, that's out of my realm of expertise. I do think I'm a firm believer in protecting groundwater. I don't think we have done that enough. But
no,
energy is a necessity. Cheap energy, I firmly believe, is a necessity. For example, in the southern part of the U.S., it would not exist if it weren't for air conditioning. The North, how will winters be? Can you cut enough lumber to get you through the winter? What if your power company says, we're going to have to black out for 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day? So you don't have any electricity supplied. You won't have any heat going. Now, if you have a heat pumps work on a 20-degree differential. And if the house temperature drops enough, it's going to be that much more of a struggle for it to recover and reheat the house. You could use the emergency heat, but that'll draw even more energy, which the power company may not allow. Germany has shut down all of its nuclear plants. And now they don't have access to Russian gas. Now, they had a relatively modest winter last winter, but what happens if they have a severe winter? They just don't have the energy supplies. So, these are some issues that people aren't paying attention to. They aren't discussing, they aren't developing solutions.
There are, the problem is, though, like there was a company, Cortec, and that created a wall board that if you set, it doesn't matter where you live. Okay. If you set at night, your thermostat to 70 degrees, doesn't matter how hot or cold it was outside the house, this wall board through nanotechnology could keep the house at the same temperature for 12 hours without any extra AC or heat. But the EPA wouldn't approve it. because I guess they would lose money on all kinds of other things. I don't know.
Don't know. I hadn't heard that. Might be something worth looking into. But, Catherine points out metallurgical coal is used for coke or steel production. True, primary purpose, but it's an energy source. And if that's not available, then those plants will either, one, cease producing or have to draw off other energy sources, including other types of coal. There is a demand, some level of demand for energy. I forget what it is in this country. 4 trillion kilowatts. I forget. And it's comprised of all different categories of coal, different categories of oil, obviously some nuclear, some wind, some solar. But if one of those areas drops or is inefficient or is not available, it's going to increase the demand in the other areas, or supply of energy is going to be cut. Quad E, who approved lead in paint?
Here, look. Let's go back. Hang on. Depends on how hungry I am. No, I'm not eating bugs. You can forget it. No, I don't. Nope. Not happening.
With a little relish on the side, grasshoppers can be.
I could just throw them in some vinegar and you would eat anything. But no. No. I can't do it. I know there is some in rice and cereals and all that good stuff, but no, you can't just give me like a roach or a water bug or a palmetto bug or a spider and say, hey, eat that. Not a caterpillar either. Not going to happen. Just saying. All right. That would be
who approved lead in paint?
The EPA.
I think that was before they knew the effects of lead. It's like lead in the water and companies, producing waste. Once they found out they were killing their customers, they cleaned it up on their own. And this was before the EPA even got started. Environmental movement started long before that, but it was just lack of information. People didn't know about all this waste and toxins they were producing or utilizing, and the damage they were doing. The science, the medicine, the research just hadn't progressed to that kind of level.
And the guy that did the wallboard, I met him, like he invented it. It was really cool. It was, he tried. There was nothing harmful about it. I don't know why. I mean, the EPA, we kept pushing them because I may have been invested in the company to do the things, but they just wouldn't. Oh, you have a Zansteyer's here.
Yes, she is. And so I thought, since she has joined us, would
Twiggy
give Ziggy a little credit again. We showed him off earlier.
Her
and
Twiggy,
and everybody loved his little pink heating pad. That is so Zansteyer right there. But a cute pup. Appreciate you sending that in. That feeling you get when you see the other half of a bug and that fresh picked raspberry. I haven't had that experience with raspberries. I have had it with an apple.
Oh God!
You see the other half of a worm wiggling.
Okay, y'all, you know that I have been vomiting for the past bit, but let's not go there.
But actually, when I've been in the traveling around Pacific Rim, over there, sometimes there will be vendors offering a pile of fried grasshoppers or something.
Did you just not hear what I said? Oh, and your lights aren't on, by the way.
Oh, I am working in the dark. Humble apologies. I need my background lights so that, my star quality can be shown off to the proper degree.
Well, it
Let
just
there
makes
be
me
light.
think,
Is that
makes
better?
me think of Squirrel. She convinced you to get those lights. So
Yes, she
little
did.
piece of her with us.
Thought about leaving them pink or pinkish tinted just for her, but yeah, ran them pink up, for a few nights. Still do miss Secret. For those of y'all that did not know her, she was an internet legend in terms of moderating chats, and just a great individual. She passed
And she was a
probably
very good
about
friend.
5-6 months ago.
She passed, oh gosh, March or April.
Yeah, I forget the exact day, but she
Zan
was a
knows.
doll of a person. She really was.
Yeah, because her funeral was in June. So
Yeah. Melissa, we have a friend who started a dog treat company using
or end of
cricket
May.
protein called Chippin. We might have to order that for the dogs. They probably would love that.
Only if it has cat poop in it would they love it, to be honest.
I mean, seriously, if they eat that, they'll eat most any kind of bug.
That's 2 hearts. It just doesn't show up on.
Okay. But a cute
I
pup.
know.
Thank you for sending it in.
And it's okay, Catherine, for bringing up the bugs. Y'all are trying to kill me. I'm a little
She
sensitive.
might actually. Yeah,
This
that's
evening.
that's kind of one reason why I want to do a little homesteading and grow my own food. One, I enjoy working with my hands. And two, I like the taste of fresh food better.
Fresh
so
bugs.
2 big reasons. But a third reason would be just the availability of food. I think it's going to get increasingly expensive. And I think people who can grow at least some of their own food will be far better off. Been in stores over the past 2 years. Now in COVID, everybody blamed it on supply logistics. But you go in stores now and you see occasionally they'll run out of something or things run short. That's probably going to get worse before it gets better. So
I'll eat a flower. I'm not going to eat a bug. Nothing that has legs that is crawling on my tongue or could crawl on my tongue. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Not going to happen.
I'm not sure what an edible, I'm sitting here thinking what would be an edible flower that would have much nutritional value? I'm not sure.
Uh-oh.
Oh my.
We got another student.
Hey, Dr. Moffitt, hope you were well. Recently saw Fitch downgraded U.S. government.
April
Any
23rd,
thoughts?
That's right.
I downgraded them years ago, so I'm wondering what took Fitch so long. Yeah, that hasn't had the impact that the previous, I guess, S&P downgraded them during Obama's period. But if you look at the soaring U.S. debt, the soaring interest payments, we were, 2 or 3 years ago, we were paying $380 billion a year in interest. This year we'll on target to hit about $1.2 trillion. So literally almost tripling our interest expense. Tax revenues are about 4.8 trillion. So this year, just throwing out round numbers, 20%, 25% of all taxes collected will be going towards interest expense. Now, keep in mind, we've got a lot of government debt that will be refinancing over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, plus the issuance of new debt at the higher rates. So that interest expense could double in another 2 years. I haven't seen a good table of maturities, and I actually started looking for one the other day, couldn't find one. Only spent 30 minutes on it, but I've got some friends at the Fed, and I think I can get a good list of maturities and figure out exactly what will happen with the refinancing. Somebody knows. Hadn't been published, which to me is saying something right there. But the Fitch downgrade, I don't think they're going to be the last one to do that, and I don't think that'll be the last one to happen. Once people start looking at cash flow, and people go, well, the U.S. government can't default. It will never default on interest payments because they can just print more money. Well, what happens when it prints more money?
The value goes down.
Yeah, what happens when we are spending more in interest than we collect in taxes? What happens to borrowing? We're borrowing money to pay interest. That's third world nation. I mean, we're already over 130, 140% debt to GDP. In history, I don't think a country has ever come back from that to not bankrupt. Now, can we bankrupt? We still can print the money. So there's a technical bankrupt and there's a practical bankrupt. When you have dollars that are worthless and you have to have $1,000 to go buy a loaf of bread, to me, that's the same as a bankruptcy. So is it possible that inflation hits us in double digits, maybe triple digits? It's possible, particularly if we keep borrowing and spending. And you'll notice tax revenues have started to decrease. People aren't starting new businesses. The interest rates are too high. The risk is too high right now. If you had, a retirement account, would you be willing to sell everything in it, take the cash, and use it to start a new business? Probably not. And that's what a lot of people are doing and saying, I don't want to start a business right now. Too much risk, too much uncertainty. Things look like they're slowing down or inflation's going to increase. They're too much. That people don't want to start a new business when there's not stability. They can adapt.
Let me ask.
Anything if they can anticipate what's coming. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was watching, because I do this, the congressional hearings every now and then. And they were doing one on the child immigrants coming to the border with no parents, no nothing, unaccompanied. So $75 billion contract since Biden has been in office that is an aviation company and a custodial company that HHS paid for the care, medical well-being of these children. It's on my Twitter. If you want to bring it up, I posted the clip. It's gross. It's like, why are we spending $75 billion to an aviation and custodial company for immigrant children? Shouldn't that be going towards their mental health, their medical needs?
I'm trying to find your link.
My Twitter.
Yeah.
Just go to my Twitter. It's right there. You got to make sure you hit the volume.
Ellen.
Sorry.
All right.
A for-profit
Can you
company
hear that?
have zero child care experience.
Might want to back it up.
Details, I can try to respond to your
I'll
question.
tell you, Department of Health and Human Services is hiring to care for them. Secretary, you're aware of HHS recently awarded a $75 billion contract for a for-profit companies that have zero childcare experience?
Congressman, if you can give me details, I can try to respond to your
I'll
questions.
tell you now.
I'm not familiar with a
Amentum,
$75
which
billion
specializes in
contract.
aviation, environmental solutions, and engineering, and J&J Worldwide, a private equity-owned company that got its start in custodial services and facility management. What qualifications does a custodial company have to provide medical and mental health care to children who have been through extraordinary trauma? Department of Health and Human Services is hiring to care for them. Secretary, you're aware.
Interesting.
That's a lot of
Don't
money.
have a whole lot I can add to that other than, somebody made the right contribution somewhere.
75 billion, and there's no way that's helping those kids.
No. Very little that government does is done for altruistic reasons or to help the people. Politicians allocate money to their friends, their family, their political cronies, their contributors, whatever. That's how they stay in office. They do political favors.
This is HHS, though. I mean, the reason they expanded their budget in the first place was to help the influx of all of these 85,000 children that are missing. And then the over 120,000 per year that have come in under the current administration. And it's like, what in the world?
Yeah, I don't have good answers for a lot of that. It's just nothing that the government does surprises me anymore because I have literally very, very low expectations. Zanzibar, April 23rd.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I think that was.
The funeral was the end of May.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
It did take them
Thank
about
you,
a
Zan.
month. Yeah,
Mhm.
Thank you.
The squirrels know love.
Yeah. Like I say, Squirrel was just a much loved figure in the internet community, particularly in the LawTube, and she actually was our first mod. She became dedicated to this channel, and she said she was determined to see it grow. And she was just a very kind, warm, loving soul, and we loved her greatly, and just was not able to enjoy her enough. So, still miss her.
Every day. All right, are we ready for
Zach? Zach, I'm
We just
curious.
did
What are your
this.
thoughts? You're out now and no longer a parasite on society. Hopefully, beginning to pay outrageous taxes. Melissa, secret squirrel forever. Yeah, we'll never
she will
forget her.
never. I talk to Zan about it often. We're like, okay, I miss her today. What do we do? I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I'm not going to get too far into it. I'm sick as it is, and if I get sad, it'll just be a disaster. So we're not going to go there right now.
Well, we're just thankful we got to know her, got to love her, and that's just how I think and remember. Zach, didn't mean to sin twice, but yes, if you analyze your income and expense like a business or individual, you wouldn't lend. Bottom line. The idea of lending is to get your money back. And when we talk about money, money is something that is used as a store of value. So hopefully that the money you lend out will purchase the same amount of goods and services when you get it back. If it will largely do that, you probably made plus the interest, you probably made a decent investment. But if it purchases less, particularly a fraction of what it did when you lend it out, if you lend out $1 million 10 years later, 10-year government bond, 10 years later, it only purchases $400,000 or $500,000 of the same goods and services, you have, for all intents and purposes, suffered a huge loss. Your purchasing power has been destroyed. And that's something that a lot of people ignore when they're investing. You know, I understand the idea and desire to be conservative and to protect your principal. But particularly if you're investing long-term, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, inflation will destroy the value of your investment, of your money. If you aren't earning above that inflation rate on an after-tax basis. And interest is taxable. So if you've got $1 million bond at 10%, you receive $100,000 in interest a year. Well, if you're in a 50% tax bracket, after taxes, you only have $500,000. So your return has been cut from 10 to 5%. Now, whatever tax bracket you're in and whatever you invest in, that after-tax rate is what matters, because that's what you actually get to keep. Taxes are an expense. So if that after-tax rate is not greater than the inflation rate, you're losing money. You are guaranteeing yourself a lower lifestyle in the future. And that's why the things we talk about matter, because we're really talking about your future and trying to give you better information to make decisions that are in your best interest, not in somebody else's. I truly, truly believe in making informed decisions. Even with good information, you may not always make the best decision or the right decision, but the odds are a whole lot better in your favor.
May the odds be in your favor.
May the odds always be in your favor. Maybe that's what we ought to name this channel.
I don't know. We're still looking. It's funny, you know, we had Zach and then help me, hang on, I'll get there. And then David tonight. Has Paxton been talking to people, or is this just a generic green grassroots thing?
I think this is just generic. They've probably been hitting scotch.
Okay, yeah, well, that'll do it every time.
So, no, it is a great joy to me to see, former students. And,
they just want to suck more knowledge out of you for free.
No. But it is a great joy to see them and see them doing well. Mm-hmm. And these two have extremely bright futures. I don't know that they'll make tons of money. I don't know for sure that's what they'll want to do. But I'm extremely confident whatever course or path they choose, that they will be successful, that they will do great things, both in their personal as well as their professional life. They're just two really fine young men, and I am proud to know them.
Oh, good.
So really
awesome.
Glad to see you and appreciate y'all dropping by tonight. Now I want you to go out and, get your friends and host an office watching party.
Yes. We need less than 100 more hours.
Yeah, this is, like I say, this is kind of a new channel. We've only been doing this a year, and we've kind of exceeded expectations. We're where we thought we would be in 2.5, 3 years. And so, we want to keep growing, but, we really appreciate y'all's support. Don't thank me. I'm just being honest.
Hey, you guys had to want to learn what he was teaching you. Thank you.
Yeah, in my classes, I try to make it clear to my students that I have a vested interest in their success. I have a financial interest in their success because, I'm going to retire in a few years. Don't know exactly when, but, I'm going to retire sometime. And at that time, I'll start collecting Social Security. And I want my Social Security. Now, they're screwed. I don't think Social Security will be paying them much of anything if it's still around. But I want mine. So I want my students to go out and get high-paying jobs and pay an obscene amount of taxes so that I can get mine. So
That's your
that's
goal.
what Mr. Yoakum is referring to. And
I
Zach,
think what y'all need to do, like, just have a student like these two guys on one, David next time, Zach next, or all three of you. I think that would be a fascinating financial discussion.
well, we might do that as well. Zach, don't know if you're available, one night. We're on generally Tuesdays and Saturday nights, but tell us a little bit about, your experience and your new work. Would love to hear from you. I think going to have David on sometime in the upcoming weeks or week and talk about technical indicators, which is a love, dare I say, passion of his. So yeah, I've had two students that really love technical indicators and had done a lot of work, a lot of background in it, and followed it faithfully. I don't want to say religiously, but I'll say faithfully. And David is one of those. Just he and Zach both possessed of good minds, outstanding work ethic, and just good men. Catherine, I think every business owner, employer, and employee has a vested interest in financially knowledgeable employers and employees. Money sense is important. I believe it is, but it's rare.
It is, and it's funny because the students of Clay's that I've met, I don't know, 10 maybe total throughout the years, maybe
Possibly.
more. I don't know, but to see them together, because Clay doesn't typically have like a relationship with them outside of class unless it's for like CFA or some other organization. But to see them after they graduate come back when they've been in the real world and have a conversation with Clay, it is, to me, it's fascinating just to watch it, to see, because they're like, oh, you said this and this happened and this and this, and it makes sense now, and all these things. It's very cool.
Well, I'm fortunate enough that many of them, when they do come back in town, they will let me know, and we will go meet for a beer or a scotch, and just shoot the breeze for an evening. And those are the things that I love most about my job, is that, I do have some that will stay in touch, and it just means the world. It really does. So when I say I've got the greatest gig ever, that's really the benefit to me. I'm not going to lie. I enjoy having a week off in the fall, a month off for Christmas, week off in the spring, 3 months off in the summer. That's not a horrible gig, but the thing that I really love. You teach a class in the
summer.
Do what?
You teach a class in the summer and you get your CFA ready.
I do. I mean, I work some during the summer, but I'm at home and the schedule's pretty much my own. But the thing that really I am most excited, most appreciative of, most proud of is my former students and being able to stay in touch with them and see them do well. They will, in a shape, manner, or form, be my legacy. I mean, let's be honest. 50 or 100 years from now, I'll be forgotten. Pretty much everybody will. Not going, it's not going to be a statue built to me for winning a great battle or war. But I take great comfort in knowing that there were very good people who respected me and who hopefully I helped them in some small way. So to me, that is the great joy of my job. And that's what makes my job the greatest gig ever. And so, going to bragging here a little bit, but this is, I've had my face kicked in for 30 years. I've worked with corporate. I've had my own firms, traveled around the world, done a lot of things probably shouldn't have, but yeah, this is a good time for me. And for that, I am grateful.
And he does, I mean, guys, David and Zach, he does love his students. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind. I mean, he talks about all of you. I can't even name the number, but some of you have a special place in his heart, and I think y'all know that.
Well, enough with the mushy stuff. I am proud of you.
Yeah, he is. I'm not gonna lie to you. You can go on as long as you want. I'm about to fall out. Sorry, those of you who maybe weren't here earlier. I'm sick. I don't feel good. So I'm going to sign off, and if you don't mind, that's okay. And good night, everybody.
We'll miss you. Get some rest.
Thank you.
He makes finance fun. Well, I'll take that as a good thing. Just sorry you didn't take my derivatives course. May could have got you to word that a little different. Yeah, David had me for a couple of intro classes, which I teach like an intro class. So the derivatives courses are on a different level. I've actually had some students tell me they were quite possibly the toughest courses on campus, certainly in Cameron. So the idea isn't just to make them miserable, but some things do demand great effort in order to understand. And derivatives are one of those areas. There's just no easy way to learn derivatives or understand derivatives. In fact, I tell the kids, this will be really their first introduction. And the first time you see it, a lot of it won't make sense. But the second time you see it, things start clicking. Third time you see it, it becomes more intuitive. Derivatives are just a different paradigm, a different way of looking at the world, a different way of valuing assets. There's just a different mindset to them. And that's one reason why I enjoy the area of the field, and that's why I enjoy teaching it. So I do have fun with what I do. I do enjoy it. Trying to think. I had something else. I've got the dog scratching at me, which is modestly annoying because it is a slight interruption. Whoops. Sorry. I think I pinched him picking him up. It's a slight interruption to my line of thought, but they really don't care about my concentration or line of thought. They want the attentions. Both of them want the attentions. So go get your mom. One thing, we were talking about inflation a little earlier, and this is one thing that hadn't gotten a whole lot of press, but the price of oil is up 21% the past month to 82.18. Just saw where Russia is cutting its production. Saudi Arabia is expected to continue cuts that it has made for another month or 2 months. So wouldn't be surprised to see oil continue to rise, even though demand for energy probably will increase going into the winter months, cooler months. If it continues into the winter, price of oil could get extremely fascinating, extremely interesting. Everything flows off of the price of oil. I mean, transportation of food, clothes, travel, gasoline, commuting to work, obviously heating and cooling. This is something you want to pay attention to. Price of oil. If you want to know what, inflation is going to do in the future, this is probably the single best indicator. Also, something else I saw that got my attention today was BlackRock is now being investigated by a House committee. The allegation is that they were funding Chinese businesses who were blacklisted by the U.S. Blacklisted because they are associated with China's military, advancing China's military capability. So if so, that's fascinating. I don't know what the penalties will be or not. BlackRock's taken it on the chin the last year with several states withdrawing money from them. They've dropped from about 11 trillion, 12 trillion in assets to around 9 or 10. So if this, has some substance to it, be interesting to see what happens. BlackRock, a huge investment advisor. BlackRock and Vanguard have been on the forefront of advocating some of the ESG policies and ESG, environmental, social, and governance, as well as the DEI policies, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So be interesting to see what happens to them. So what other questions do y'all have? I know the night's getting a little late. We've got a few minutes left. What questions do y'all have? Or what topics, we've alluded to a couple of topics for the future. What topics would y'all like to see? We're always open to suggestion and input. But Tuesday nights are just kind of a relaxed, informal setting. And y'all have a big role in it. Yeah, I was just looking over here thinking that Ellen, bless her heart, I heard her moving around upstairs. She obviously doesn't feel real sporty, but if you saw last week, she had this little game we were playing where she comes up with weird questions, and then we try to figure out how the other would respond. So we'll probably do that again before long. I think she even had some for tonight, but she just doesn't feel that good. So, well, listen, I don't really have anything else to, prepared to cover. Did have a few questions from Reddit, which, if you'll notice in prior sessions, we take some questions that they ask on there and try to handle those. This is one thing that I saw the other day that I did want to throw out. You're familiar with Klaus Schwab. He's the director of the World Economic Forum and the author of the Great Reset, which we've talked about before. Well, his daughter is out saying permanent climate lockdowns coming. And then the money quote, whether you like it or not. We had somebody ask, what is a climate lockdown? Well, it's pretty much the same as a COVID lockdown. If you remember, they had their little video, 8 predictions by 2030. We've actually shown it when we were talking about the Great Reset. And they talk about in there, you will own nothing, you'll rent everything, and you will like it. And then they also talk about another prediction by 2030 is you won't need to leave your house. Everything you need will be delivered to you. What does, that sounds like a nice way of saying you can't leave your house because you won't need to. You don't need to drive. You won't even need to own a car. You won't need any great access to public transportation because you won't need to leave your house. Isn't that a kind of a fascinating forecast of the future 7 years from now? It is to me. I just find that extremely interesting. And then you've got his daughter here talking about how climate lockdowns are coming. Okay, we don't even need a disease or a pandemic. We'll do it. We'll lock you in your house, keep you in your house to save the planet. Do I owe you thanks or gratitude or something for that? I don't know. Just, these people aren't terribly secretive about what they're planning, what they're working toward, or what they intend to try to enact. Question from Catherine. Do you think consumer spending has any effect on the overall economy, or is it a steady factor? I think it does have an impact on the economy, particularly more so discretionary consumer spending. Now, there's some base level at which consumers need to spend, for example, to buy food. But even over the past year, we've seen a lot of people change their purchasing habits in terms of the food, the type food that they buy, because they can't afford some of the other food items they used to buy. So there is some kind of stable level, but in good times, people spend over that. And that type of consumption kind of contributes to the economy growing. It's like, I want to point out oftentimes that young people drive the economy because they're the ones that need the stuff. Most of you probably will celebrate Christmas. And if you have or had grandparents, what do you buy your grandparents? My grandparents didn't want anything. They wanted a hug and some time and attention. I'd get my grandfather a pair of socks for Christmas. He just didn't care. He didn't need anything. He already had everything. But all he wanted was just to spend some time. Now, when my sister got married and started having babies, what could I buy her? Anything and everything. She needed everything, to furnish a house, furnish rooms, babies, diapers, more food, bigger car, all these kind of things. Young people their demand for goods and services is the main driver of consumption of a growing economy. So that's a big problem going forward, is that fewer young people are getting married and having babies. I'll even tell my classes that, economically speaking, as an economist, finance person, economist, it is critical, if they want a growing economy, if they want a vibrant economy, for young girls to have babies. Not that I'm encouraging them to go have babies, out of wedlock, or just, spit them out, or have babies that they don't want, whatever. But if you don't have young people needing these goods, and a single guy doesn't, how many of y'all have been in an apartment of a single guy? There's probably a TV, a game controller, and one chair. And then the refrigerator has, can you say it's well stocked with food that's 4, 5, 6 months old? You get the idea. Girls are like, how can guys live like this? I think sometimes they just get mad that we don't need all the stuff to be happy. But anyway, single guys aren't going to drive the economy. Young girls in and of themselves, they'll have some demand that, clothes, furniture, that kind of thing, but it's not the same as if they were married and having children. Getting in a larger house, buying a different car. Now, instead of the little 2-door coupe, you need a SUV or a minivan or something. So young couples have a huge impact on economic growth. So yes, consumer spending is important. There is a minimal sustainable level because people need essentials. But if you think about it, for most people, there's a lot of spending they can cut out. And that's when the economy's in trouble, when people start cutting back and cutting out. So hope that answered your question or made some sense. And seriously, if I say something that doesn't make sense or something that you don't understand, let me know. Now, once you let me know, it's my job to find a way to explain it so that it does, communicate it so that it does. But you've got to let me know. I'm suck at mind reading, particularly online. So don't hesitate. Catherine, they have climate lockdowns in China already. Days you can drive, days you cannot. Days you can operate a factory or not. I wouldn't be surprised to see that here. It's hard to say we're not moving in that direction. I've also seen where China has implemented a social credit score. And for example, on their phones, when somebody with a low score calls, their phone has an alarm and the screen turns up a warning notice. Says, if you answer this call and talk to this person, your credit score, your social credit score will be affected. So you can't even accept calls from people with low social credit scores without risking your own score and your own difficulties communicating with other people in the future. Now, what's this going to do to China's economy? Is that an economy you want to invest in? Is that an economy you want a manufacturing plant in? If you were Chinese well-educated and had a chance to go somewhere else, is that an economy you'd want to stay in? I personally think China's killing itself. The regime there is killing itself. So I'm not terribly worried about China as far as an economic competitor 5-10 years down the road. Now, will they try to invade Taiwan the next year or two? To me, that's the big risk. but their economic power is going to choke itself to death. Our biggest economic competitors probably going to be India. India has more honor students than we have students. If they would ditch their case system, they'd be a whole lot better off. But India is, making some progress, but their students work hard, they're intelligent, they, have English as a basic language. They're going to be our main competitor 5-10 years down the road, not China, economically speaking. That's terrifying. It is. It should be, a source of some concern, because just think about governments and what have happened to governments, even in the West, over the past 10, 20, 30 years. Are they accruing more power unto themselves or less? If you think that, and I think it's pretty evident, they're accruing more power unto themselves, that rate of power acquisition is only accelerating. Where does it end? When does it end? I think those are legitimate questions and concerns. And people need to be not only aware of that, but preparing for that and the consequences of that. It's like China. China's not going to experience rapid economic growth with that kind of regime, with that kind of stifling, choking job, life, exercise, innovation, killing, dictatorship. I just don't know how to adequately express my thoughts in that area. So the more Western governments head in that direction, is it fair to assume, the economy is going to turn around and start growing and we'll have vibrant economic growth again? Or do demographics argue to that? Do increased government power and regulation argue against that? Does energy supply argue against that? I pointed out all these varying issues which have significant impacts on the future going forward. And almost none of them currently bode well for a more productive, prosperous future. So how does that impact you? Does that knowledge make you think, well, there are certain preparations, certain skills that maybe I need to acquire, certain opportunities that I maybe need to take advantage of, certain ones that I don't? So I can't with great preciseness predict the future, but I have followed trends all of my life. It's how I invest. It's how I guide and direct my own life. I'm a big believer in trends. And so that's how I focus, I guess, a lot of the information that I try to pass out is looking at trends and where things are headed. Hopefully that helps you, even if you don't necessarily agree with my conclusion or outcomes or the significance of the trend. At least it's information you've got, and hopefully can make better informed decisions. And that's our goal. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. I do very much appreciate you coming by. And for the replay crew, love you guys just as well. David and Zach, if you're still here, thank you really for dropping in and saying, hey, appreciate that. Hope to see y'all again Saturday or next Tuesday. Well, hope you all have a good night, good week ahead. I thank you for your time. Our time is up. Good night to all.